Okay. Technology. Exciting, exciting. Love it. So in this little section, I'm going to be talking about what I call prison to paradise. When you have a firm handle on what it is that you do, why you do what you do, you have a firm handle on the types of people that would value that. Then you answer the problem. No, you don't answer a problem. You answer the question. You answer the question, what problems can I solve for those people? So that was what we called the two circles exercise. And these, listen, I'm just giving you some little insights to spark something in you to help you on this journey, to spark something in you to trigger a change, to trigger something so that you can go and do your best work, so that you can go and become the person that you seek to become. It's one of my favorite Seth Godin quotes, by the way. I've got it in my email signature and everything. So in this section, we're going to look at that middle segment of two circles, and we're going to look at the problems that you can solve for the people that would value the thing that you're amazing at, or things that you're amazing at. And this really is where you figure out, review, devise, understand, learn about your product offerings, what that looks like. How do you solve those problems? How do you do it? Let me show you. Okay. So just before I share the screen, we're live here on a few different channels. We've got Facebook going, we've got YouTube going, we've got Periscope, and you can interact. If you want to ask any questions, you can interact by just posting a comment. And with the joys of technology, I should see it. If I don't, I apologize, but I should be able to see it, and then we can interact. You can ask questions. Feel free to do that. Okay. If you're watching live, if you're watching a recording, then, I'll probably be asleep. Okay, so let me share the screen and let's talk about Prison to Paradise. Okay. This is a powerful exercise because it really elaborates on the problems that you can solve for the people that would value it. So it's basically it's the essence of your business, the essence of what that is, what that looks like, and the why, the how. Sorry, not the why, the how. This is the how. So we've asked why, we've asked who, we've asked what. Now we're asking how. How do we solve those problems? So this is really a really cool starting point for defining those groups of people that would value what it is that you do, defining what their life looks like in two kind of contrasting areas, really. So we've got I call it prison to paradise. The different marketers call it different things like heaven and hell and all kinds of stuff. But the idea is about contrast. So in yin and yang, you've got order and chaos. You've got darkness and light. You've got good and evil. You've got positive and negative. And they're polar ends of a spectrum. So in this example, we look at what their life in the prison state, they're trapped. They haven't had the benefit of your amazingness in their lives. You haven't worked your magic. You haven't delivered your genius to them and solved their problems. So what does that look like? What does that look like for them? What do they see in the world? How do they view and see the world around them? What does it sound like? So what are they hearing from friends, from the gurus, from other influencers, from other people in the world? What are they hearing? And then the most important one is, what does it feel like? What does it feel like to be in that prison state before you've worked your magic? So before you've transformed them with what it is that you can do, before you've solved their problem. And if you think about it, we are all living, breathing humans, right? We breathe in, we breathe out, we feel emotions, we have pain, all of these things. And the feelings and emotions that we experience are all the same, universal. Pain is pain, anger is anger, joy is joy. So what are those emotional states that come about because they're in the prison state and haven't had the benefit of your wisdom, the benefit of your skill, the benefit of your genius to transform their lives, to solve their problem? What does it feel like? Frustration, anger, overwhelm, confusion, right? These are typical ones that appear over and over again, regardless of the context. The only thing that's different here is the context. The emotions are still the same, right? It's the frustration of not being able to figure this out. It's the confusion of not knowing how to work this. It's the overwhelm by having so many choices and not knowing which way is the right way for them. What are those what are those things for you? And something that's really interesting is to create, I call it a word bank. So it's to create a word bank of how people articulate those feelings. Man, I just feel like I'm spinning my tires in the mud. Creating and documenting what those words are can be so powerful because you're then able to create messaging that resonates. We're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but I just want to paint the broader picture. But you're able to create messaging that really resonates. Stop spinning your tires in the mud. Wow, they understand me, they get me, they know, they feel my pain. First step is identifying and understanding what that prison pain feels like. What does it feel like? What does it feel like for your ideal client trapped, having not utilized your service, having not bought your product? And then we contrast that with the polar opposite, with the paradise state. Woohoo! You've worked your magic. You've changed my life. What does that look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? What does it feel like after you've worked your genius on me? What do I feel like? Typically, it's the opposite of the prison state, right? It's the antithesis, the polar opposite. Frustration turns into joy and relief. I don't know, but it's the polar opposite of what these things are. What does that feel like? So imagine not having overwhelm and frustration at not knowing what to do. Imagine having clarity. Imagine being able to take a breath and feeling like the weight was lifted. Imagine what that would feel like. There's an example of how we take that frustration and pain and overwhelm and burden and we lift it away to the paradise state of peace of mind, relief. There's an example. What is that for you? with what you do, with your genius, with what you can bring and what you can deliver, and the problems that you can solve for your ideal clients. So go into detail about what it looks like. They see advertisements from this, they see and read books by these people, they see this, they watch this, they're exposed to all of this, and they're hearing people say, oh, it's easy, or oh, it won't work for you, or yeah, you can do that, but they can't do that, you're not good enough. What are those things? What is that chatter? What does it sound like? And most importantly, what does it feel like? Both ends of the spectrum. Prison, paradise. Once you've got a handle on that process, prison to paradise. Well, not the process. Getting ahead of myself there. When you've got a handle on the contrast from prison to paradise, then you can focus on the process. And that process, if you imagine that we've got the person in paradise, imagine that bridge isn't there right now, but you've got the person in the prison side in pain, feeling how they feel, and you've got the solution with what you do. You can help them to move forward, to transform. You can solve their problem. Well, then the challenge to you is to understand, okay, you've got this ideal person who values what you do in front of you right now, and they're over on the other side of a chasm. You can't give them everything you know. You can't give them your experience. You can't give them the things that are inside of you. But what you can do is you can give them the big rocks. You can give them the critical steps. So you can put down rocks. You can put down steps for them to walk from one side to the other. And that's the process. That's the process of you delivering your awesomeness with what you do. What does that process look like for you? What are the steps that you would take? So imagine you're presented with an ideal client right now who is in pain. And by in pain, I don't mean physical pain, right? I mean in pain or frustration, wherever that emotional prison state is. They're in the prison state right now. What would you do with that person to get them the results that you know you can deliver? What are the results? What's the pain state? And what's the process? What would that process look like? So what would you say? What would the conversation look like? And what would you do? What would the steps be? So in outlining what those steps are, you're really defining your process. You're defining your method, your system, and your way of really making a difference in that person's life with what you do. So those steps become a system, a process, a methodology, a vehicle, something Todd Brown calls a unique mechanism. What's your unique mechanism? What's the way that you deliver results? It's the mechanism for getting them from one side to the other. It's the way that you deliver those results. It's the way that you solve that problem. And this gives you an outline of, hey, we do X, we do Y, we do Z, and then ta-da, this is what we deliver. So that process can really, really help for you to understand your ideal client's situation. Because in order to market to people, you need to understand where they're at. You need to show that you understand where they're at. And you do that by actually understanding, right? By actually understanding where they're at, by understanding their current state of being, of mind, of heart, of emotion. and then positioning you, your products, your services as the solution to that. So this is a great way of really figuring out what that looks like from a practical perspective, what it sounds like and what it feels like. Because you're able then in your messaging to really introduce vivid pictures of what the problem is like, what it feels like, and what the solution will feel like. And there's real power in that from a messaging perspective. You also can take the process element, the steps that you take people on to go to define your kind of your value ladder, your suite of offerings with which you make that change, with which you solve those problems. And that's something we're going to be talking about real soon because it follows on naturally from this. It's the ways in which you can help. It's the ways in which you can make a difference, the ways in which you can deliver your awesomeness. So this doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to be one product. It can be a suite of products. It doesn't have to be one thing. It can be a suite of things. And it's good that it is. So just like with the other exercise, we play in the process. We play with the idea of helping and serving. What does that look like? Let's define it. Let's write it out. Let's map it out so that we know what that looks like, so that we can create a picture of what that looks like, so that we can make it. When we do that, you're really able to create stuff that makes a difference, create stuff that impacts. Do the thing that you're meant to do. That's Prison to Paradise. So you'll notice a link there in the screen share. It's bit.ly/Prison to Paradise. And this is if I can just get onto the screen, I'll show you what it is. This is no, I've not got it on there. Is it up here? No, this is just a worked example that I created in a previous presentation. Okay, let me stop sharing. And I will get a copy of the worksheet so I can show you that. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so the link, the bit.ly link, and I'll put it back up again in a second, brings you to this Google Sheet. And so what you're able to do in here is you're able to click File and make a copy because this is read only. So you need to make your own copy so that you can edit it and add in your info. So you just click File, make a copy, and then you can save it to your own Google Drive. Okay, so if you don't have a Google account, you can create one. They're totally free, and you get a little bit of cloud storage, so you can save this to the cloud. There's instructions in here how to do it. But then effectively what you do is you've got this tab down at the bottom, Prison to Paradise, and you'll see a replication. Yeah, you'll see the diagram that I shared with you a second ago, and you're able to fill it in, right? So you're able to articulate what prison looks like, sounds like, and feels like. Then do the polar opposite of paradise after they've worked their magic with you. And then you're able to add the steps. And so you can just add, you can add in more columns if you want to, just to, there's no like prerequisite for how many steps. The steps are the steps, and it's all dictated to by your process. The price element, obviously, I'm not going to go into that right now, but that's when we talk about value ladder and how this sits, where this sits in your value ladder. That's something that we'll talk about shortly. So you've got the link. You can download your copy of the worksheet. You can complete it. And the thing with this stuff, with the two circles, with prison to paradise, with all of these worksheets is they are iterative. And what that means is you don't do it and then throw it in a folder somewhere and never look at it again. They're organic, they're living, they're breathing. They grow and develop with you, with your business. And so you may fill some elements in right now, but then you come back to it. You fill some elements in again later, you'll come back to it. You'll have a conversation with somebody and they'll say something and you'll go, wow, oh wow, I never realized it was perceived like that. So I had a client say, oh, Colin, it feels like I'm driving the car and you're my co-pilot. Wow, I like that. So I came into my prison to paradise and I wrote that down. Feels like feels like you're my co-pilot. So there's actually that wouldn't be that, would it? That would be the paradise state. Feels like you're my co-pilot. So there's a great example of how you can create what I call a word bank of how people articulate the pain, the problem, the issue, the prison state, using this sheet. So you can capture it in there. You can listen and look for how people are talking, what they're saying, all of those cool things, and use it to effectively craft messaging that will resonate with your target audience because you've taken the time to understand them. You haven't just gone, oh, it's Millie, she's 28, she's got 2 kids and she lives in Boston, right? And done this surface level, I don't really care. I just want enough information for me to market to. You've not done that. You've taken the time to really understand Millie's pain, Millie's frustration, where Millie is right now, and how what you do can solve that for Millie. Okay. So prison to paradise is the first step in doing that. And then at this point, I often get asked, like, by people, by clients, so, all right, this is cool, right? But if we're just starting out, or even if we're not starting out, it's the same kind of question. How do we do it? How do I go and find Millie? How do I put my ear to the ground and see what Millie has to say and learn and understand more about that so that I can begin this process of filling these things in? Because it's a process, it's an iterative process. You do it, then you leave it, and then you come back and you do it again and you leave it, and you have an insight with a conversation and you fill that in and you create some messaging based on the work that you've done, and then you redo it and you recreate it, and it goes around and around in a circle, much like everything, right? We learn, we implement, we fail, we relearn, we re-implement and fail, and we keep going in that circle and failing our way forward, right? That's how we make progress. So play with the prison to paradise. Let me get that link up for you, and I bet you there's a cool way I can share the link. Oh, it works. Joys of technology. So there's the link to the worksheet, bit.ly/prison to paradise. And you can take a copy of that, play with this idea of defining what that prison state is, what the paradise state is, what life looks, sounds, and feels like for those folk, and how you can affect your transformation in their lives with what you do. What's that process for you? Okay, play with that, enjoy, have fun, have fun. Remember, be playful with it, and put it to work. Because once you've got that, you've got a real solid understanding of who your ideal clients are. You've got an even clearer picture of the people that you help, of that who circle. But not only that, you've got the beginnings of the problems and how you solve those problems. What's the process? What are the big rocks that you put down? to allow them to get from the prison side to the paradise side? What does that look like? Because when you know that, then you're in a place where you can start to craft what that offering looks like from a business perspective, okay? From your perspective of crafting what's called a value ladder, a suite of offerings that allow you to deliver value. That's why it's called a value ladder, right? We're in a sliding scale of price, of cost, so that you can have people get more value for more money. You can have at the bottom end, you can have free content that allows people to solve their problems for no cost at all, right? Because that's how we roll. We're rolling to help people, to make a difference. So that's Prison to Paradise. Play with it, have fun.